Manti, Kyle, Isaiah. Kyle, last hour you began the show by sleeping on the table. This hour you are starting the show not paying attention whatsoever because you are elbow deep in the NFL rule book, but I do need the answer to the question that you just teed up to Isaiah.
All right, so what I said was, let's say a guy goes down, he falls or whatever, and he's not down in the NFL, he has to be touched. If someone touches his long hair that's billowing out of the back of his helmet, is he down? The answer is yes. That is part of the body. But then it's if you touch his towel or his hooded sweatshirt thing, you are not down because that's not part of the body. So I'm fascinated by the rule book right now. I'm done. Rest of the show, I'm just reading this. Sorry. I love that.
Weirdly, Isaiah's wearing both the hair and the hoodie today.
Yeah,
so we should do an experiment later where Manti has to try to down Isaiah on the field, but we have to do hair or hoodie. That's the question.
Hair or hoodie.
So he's not down if I touch the hoodie, but he's down if I touch the hair.
Kyle, it makes me want you to do the highlight of Bears Chiefs, but do it in the voice in which, but like read the rule book in your highlight voice or something like that. You know what I mean? Like give it some pizzazz.
Well, I'm just referencing Rule A.R.7.27. Guys, this is a segment right here. We're going to do officiating week or something like that. We got all kinds of fun here. But in the meantime, Chiefs-Bears preseason with all sorts of stars all over the field. Is it just me or is preseason different this year?
Yeah.
We got Mahomes. He's not just warming up. This dude is playing. Watch what he's doing. Mahomes in the pocket. Goes in front of Montez Sweat, who thinks he was held. Mahomes doing his sideline thing like it's week 15. He hits Juju Smith-Schuster for 19 yards. All right. Not bad, not bad. Number 9, Juju back there. Kevin Byard on the coverage. Pacheco is in the game. Touchdown. Pacheco. Chiefs in Arrowhead. The Kingdom. They take the lead. I'm going to talk about the score in this one. I feel like it matters. What's next? Kelce catches the ball? Yes. Travis Kelce. The old head catches the ball. Kelce's out there with a 20-yard catch. He had 2 catches in this game. Rashee Rice. Touchdown. Mahomes is spreading the ball all around to all his receivers. If you just tuned in now, you'd be like, wow, Bears Chiefs is really fired up. What are you going to tell me next? Caleb Williams plays? Oh, yes, he does. Very sharp in his preseason debut against the Bills in week 2. Not so much here. That is Olamide Zaccheaus, the receiver they like a lot. It's completely off on the timing. Wait till you see the Ben Johnson cutaway. Watch Ben Johnson, what he thinks of the timing being wrong. Oh. All right. So Caleb rallies, though. We're in a 2-minute situation. Under a minute left to go in the first half. 2nd and 10. Roma Dunze. Got it. Wide open. Caleb hits him. Tick, 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 tick. They got a bunch of timeouts as preseason doesn't matter. So we're inside the 5, but Dunze with a nice run after the catch. 1st and goal, 31 seconds. Timing pattern, got him. A Dunze touchdown. Guys, the Chiefs stars are making plays. The Bears stars and waiting are making plays. This is real action here. This is the final tune-up. Caleb with a sweat, with an intensity. Who cares about the score up at the end of this thing? It did feel like it mattered. The point is, Mahomes looks good. Caleb's a little shaky start, but then he ironed things out. However, though, let's hear about the man of the hour. Bears head coach Ben Johnson. Ben, how did you feel about your team's performance in this preseason game?
Offensively, first 2 possessions was really sloppy football that has plugged us in and out of camp so far, and unfortunately, that's what we got here tonight. I'm still learning this group as well because we said this is our first time on the road, and we were going to find out what type of road team we were going to be. And, if the first quarter was really any indication, it's not good enough. So we got to get better in a hurry.
He's got a standard, trying to hold his guys to it. Biggest takeaway from that Bears-Chiefs game, Manti, as we saw it over the weekend?
Well, number one, it was an entertaining game. I was so grateful for that last game of the preseason. But the number one thing that I took away from this was the Chiefs neutralizing a pass rush. That's the number one thing that I took from this game when I saw them play the Bears, not only from their run game, but staying on the running backs topic, they started utilizing a scat back. Like, we haven't seen that for a while for the Kansas City Chiefs. Their scat back is Rashard Smith, number 30, rookie out of SMU. You started to see him run a little bit. And what does that do? How does that neutralize a pass rush? Well, for a linebacker who's in man-to-man coverage, and you know this, Isaiah, on a running back he's shifty and he's fast. We utilize this call called a hit call. Now, what does that mean? That means for my defensive end, if this running back goes outside the tackle, you are required to hit him. You see how that neutralizes a pass rush? Well, not only that, but they have quick screen games. We saw that to Travis Kelce. We saw that to Worthy. We saw that to Rashee Rice. We saw that a lot in this preseason game. But I couldn't help but see that pass rush, that pass pro by that O-line. Like there was one play on the third down where you saw Trey Smith whack a D lineman and then peel around. I don't know if we have that clip, but he peels around and he finishes off another defensive lineman. So that's the thing that I took from this game, Isaiah, was an emphasis on neutralizing a pass rush.
I took away the fact that the Chiefs might be doggone more dangerous than we've ever seen them be in the history of Everton.
All right.
And the reason why I say that is because these guys all have something to prove. Think about it. When you go to Patrick Mahomes, he had an underwhelming statistical year, and he lost in the Super Bowl. We know how competitive he is. Travis Kelce, people are saying that he's washed. He has a lot to prove. Isaiah Pacheco coming off an injury. Can he still be Can he still be that guy? The O-line absolutely got demolished by the defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles last time we saw them in a regular season game. Obviously, in the Super Bowl by the Eagles. Rashee Rice, coming off an injury, also has some off-field things that he has to try to make people forget about. Steve Spagnuolo is going to do spag stuff on the defense side of the ball, but this team is armed and dangerous. These guys got the ball out, as you said earlier, Kyle, to absolutely everybody. There were 17 different guys who had receptions in this game. There were 9 different guys who carried the ball across the line of scrimmage. These guys are going to spread the rock around. They have all the resources, and they all have something to prove.
I mean, quick sweat from the Chiefs there. They look sharp as hell. That looked like a basketball game to me. Mahomes running the point just up and down in the gym somewhere. Sharp, you hit a shot, alley-oop here behind the back. Just fine. Like, we'll see you in the opener. The Chiefs are going to win a lot of games this year. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. We're in the middle of a dynasty. The Bears, to me, are interesting. Ben Johnson chose his horse, and he is riding it. He is not getting off that horse. And that horse is like, I'm not impressed. I'm not happy. That's the horse right there. This is the end of a preseason game. A preseason game in which his backups made enough plays to, quote-unquote, win the game at the end. And he was more pissed off. I've seen coaches of 2-14 teams lose by 40 in a regulation game who aren't as pissed as Ben Johnson is. And I absolutely adore it. Because there's a take you could have in this game about the Bears starter starting sloppy to say, well, you know, I was encouraged by the way they bounced back from that. Yeah, that's nonsense. I'm not patronizing these guys. I'm not saying any of this stuff. This is my offense. This is my team. Caleb should have got the snap earlier. Olamide Zaccheaus should have had the timing better. This is nonsense. We were going to find out what time of road team we were. Not good. Not good. I just love it. I just love it because so many of the Bears stars are young. Look at that, by the way, DeAndre Swift. We'll talk about that later. Caleb has never had anybody scream at him and saying, you're not good enough, you're not doing this. It's so good because I know it's going to flip when the opener starts. Once the opener starts, all that great Santini, tough love on the driveway stuff from Ben Johnson, he's going to be super encouraging and positive. But right now, he's cracking skulls, and I absolutely adore it. I think it's the right thing. I can name past Bears coaches who would have said, hey, it's great to come into Arrowhead and walk away with the W. Pfft, who cares? No one cares about that. Ben Johnson says the offense looks sloppy. Unacceptable. That's what they need. And they got it. We'll see the Bears opening night at home primetime against the Vikings. I think he'll have them ready.
Kyle, I'm fascinated that you said that come the regular season, it will flip, because I was just going to ask you that when Dan Campbell was hired, there was questions about the way he goes about operates his team and his life. Is that sustainable? Are guys going to buy into it, or are they going to get sick of it? I would feel the same way, though, if the tough love thing just went on and on and on. But you're saying that you think by the time September 1st rolls around that we are going to see a new style of Ben Johnson. So he's going to keep him on his toes, if you will.
I am seeing an image of it's Soldier Field at night, and let's say Caleb throws a big touchdown pass to, I don't know, Cole Kmet in the fourth quarter of that game, comes to the sideline. I think it's a big hug from Ben Johnson. I think it's smiling. I think it's a pats on the back, all of that stuff. Now, if it's the opposite and the offense isn't there and it's a pick six, like, there's not going to be a lot of like, it's okay. It's okay. It's not. That's not his style. The Bears have had many coaches like that. Where are they now? Who the hell knows? That's not his style. He's going to be, I'm going to clean it up a little bit. He's going to be a bit of a football jerk. And I think that's exactly what they need.
Thank you. We appreciate that so much. Manti, a question for you. You look at the Chiefs side of things. Kyle keeps saying this preseason hits different. It's odd seeing Mahomes out there. We saw Joe Burrow sling it on Monday Night Football for a while. You look at the Chiefs, the way they're operating their preseason, does it elicit different feelings about the way Kansas City is doing stuff?
Well, I just don't want to see how often they're playing. I'm seeing how they're playing. Like you can't miss how aggressive they're firing off the ball on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. You see that defensive line doing what they're doing and being disruptive. Now, I do think because there are 3 preseason games instead of 4, and now these guys have an extra week, I think some coaches are starting to switch their mentality and approach where back in the day, starters played the first preseason game, probably a quarter, second preseason game, a little bit more, third preseason game, like a half, and then fourth preseason game wouldn't play at all. Now I think it's starting to flip a little bit where starters aren't really playing the first game, and then they're starting to increase their reps as we go. So I think there's a little change that's happening on the NFL front as far as how coaches are seeing this preseason chapter and how they're approaching it. It's actually been cool to watch.
All right. With that, in Kansas City, let's welcome in our NFL Network insider, Tom Pelissero. Tom, we saw a bunch of moves made over the weekend, but let's look at that team we were just discussing in Kansas City. Decisions to be made before tomorrow's roster cut-down day. What's happening with the Chiefs?
Well, the Chiefs did make a trade yesterday, bringing back a familiar face. Derek Nottie, defensive tackle and member of 3 of their Super Bowl winning teams, is now a Chief once again in a trade with the New York Jets. This is one of those late-round conditional pick swap deals, meaning that Nottie probably wasn't going to make the Jets roster. They've made a couple of trades in recent days for defensive tackles. That made Nottie expendable. He spent 7 years with the Chiefs, now is back with them once again. There is no trade yet involving the Cowboys star pass rusher Micah Parsons, who continues to be on the sideline as he deals with what he has said is a low back issue and, of course, a contract. There's the photo right there of Parsons' relatively brief stay on a training table in the middle of the Cowboys preseason game over the weekend. Micah Parsons has said before he does not want to be held to closed-door negotiations that took place without his agent. Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner, has said in his mind that negotiation already happened, and he felt like he had a handshake deal in place with Micah way back in March. Now, we're just 10 days away from the opener here. Micah Parsons has been engaged in walkthroughs and meetings, but he's not done anything on the field. There are conditioning aspects to this and other things that would certainly make these next few days very important. Somebody ultimately is going to have to budge. Otherwise, Micah Parsons potentially could not be on the field next Thursday night. There's no signs at this point the Cowboys are considering trade possibilities with Micah Parsons, but certainly one of the biggest situations we'll be monitoring here in the coming days. Meanwhile, the cut-down deadline is at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. There could be some notable names that end up being moved prior to then. One to watch is Kyle Duggar, the Patriots safety who they just extended last year after making him their transition player. Duggar is not the fit right now that the Patriots want with a new defensive scheme and a new regime, so they have been having conversations, as our Ian Rappaport noted yesterday, with other teams, but potentially trading Duggar. He's due $11 million this year. That's a pretty big number. My understanding is the Patriots are willing to eat at least some of that money. No trade, though, is imminent at this point. And Duggar, I should note here, Jamie, not the only player acquired under one of the prior regimes in New England who potentially could be available here in a trade.
Okay, Tom, that's good to know. Like you said, lots of track. I'm sure we'll catch everything we need to know on the insiders on NFL Network as well. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Here's the question on GMFB that I have for you in the next segment. When I say the words Willy Wonka or a Walkman or, dare I say, the Atari VCS, Kyle, how does that make you feel? I'm looking at the AFC West coaches and how they all connect to that.
Makes me feel like we used to have a real civilized country here, you know? Now it's all gone to waste. We used to be a decent nation. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it, Jamie. You got my attention. Plus, in-studio guest. I think he's in studio. I hope he is. Veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks. This guy brings the boom. I love this guy. His takes on his former team, J.J. McCarthy, the NFC North, the best. Yo! What's up, baby? Welcome to Good Morning Football, where you give me water in a can.
It's you. You had spent some time in California, Oxnard, because the Cowboys were here.
I did.
How's life?
Life is good. Life is good. A lot of things have been happening, but you know what? I'm here. I'm back at the table.
Perfect.
It's good to be with my fam. I missed y'all. I like watching y'all. I like being here.
I bet. You know, I really felt badly for you because it just felt like there was, 5 minutes that we didn't have something to talk about with the Cowboys, Kyle. And this is not just some documentary stuff to talk about. It's live things that happened during the broadcast of the Falcons-Cowboys game.
Yeah, sure. And it starts with us making a run for the border. Let's do Falcons-Cowboys and try to live Moss. What am I talking about? Here we go. Lead block, blue football helmet. Micah Parsons, nachos con carne. Número 11, quiere more dinero. Pero el jefe no está de acuerdo. I did my best, guys. I probably messed up some pronunciations. I'm sorry, Miss Dorney, my Spanish teacher. Guys, that's Joe Milton. That's a touchdown. 6-0 if you care, which you don't. Dak Prescott on the sideline. This is Jaden Blue. Azul. And that is another touchdown. He finished with 9 rushes for 25 yards, got banged up a little bit. But let's see that arm, Joe Milton. Let's see you huck that pigskin. Boom. Jalen Brooks, touchdown. Cowboys. Milton finished 10 of 18, 132 rushing touchdown. Looked really good. Looked just like you want him to look. Will we see him this year? I don't know. Cowboys win, blah, blah, blah. There's some Easton Stick highlights for those getting up this morning being like, where's my Easton Stick? But more importantly, there's optics, Jamie, and there's storylines. There's all kinds of stuff. What do you got?
Well, now I'm hungry, but that's all because we watched Micah Parsons walk into the stadium a certain way for the Cowboys game. Let's get the latest on that topic and much more from around the league with our NFL Network insider with us this morning, Tom Pelissero. Tom, good morning to you. Happy Monday. However, lots to talk about from over the weekend. For example, we'll start with Dallas and its star defender.
Well, Jamie, you saw Micah Parsons entering the building, enjoying himself a little snack. Later on during the game, at one point, he was laying on a training table. The frustrations have been laid bare in many different ways. And as of late last night, from my understanding, it is absolute status quo in terms of Micah Parsons and his contract. We know that Jerry Jones, in a series of appearances on various podcasts and TV shows last week, said in his mind, the negotiations already happened. That handshake deal that he felt he had with Micah Parsons way back in March, like 5 months ago, that's it. That's the deal. And the only role of Micah Parsons' agent in this would be to finish up the paperwork. Obviously, Micah Parsons, in announcing his trade request back on August 1st, made clear he does not want to be held to closed-door negotiations that did not involve his agent. So from Jerry's perspective, they've got a deal, and he's not moving. From Micah's perspective, there is no deal. From the agent's perspective, David Mulugheta, who did over $1 billion in deals last year, no one has even talked to him about negotiating a contract at this point. So here's where we now stand. It is 10 days out from the opener. Micah Parsons has not practiced. He has said he's dealing with back tightness. Coach Brian Schottenheimer said over the weekend that they had an MRI recently on the back. It turned out pretty clean. That's a pretty clear indication they feel like Micah Parsons is indeed healthy. And if that's the case, there are levers the Cowboys can pull, including fining Micah Parsons, including suspending him. To this point, the team has been reluctant to do that, even though he is not practicing, because, they need him to try to beat the Eagles. Well, they would also need him back on the practice field to ramp up in terms of conditioning and everything else. These next few days are going to be pretty critical to see if one of these parties ends up moving, or if perhaps even Micah Parsons says, you know what, you say you're going to keep me for 3 years regardless, including a couple of franchise tags. I'm going to show up and play this thing out. In what has to be only considered a better piece of news for the Cowboys, because that's pretty bad, Trevon Diggs activated from the physically unable to perform list. He has passed his physical, moved on to the active roster. Now, this does not necessarily mean that Diggs is going to be ready to play in week 1. He had surgery for a cartilage injury in his knee last December. That's about an 8-month recovery. The Cowboys have been planning the entire offseason as if Diggs is not going to be there for a good chunk of the early portion of the season. But the fact that he's at least returning to practice and beginning the ramp-up means that maybe they'll get Diggs back sooner than they had expected. Again, I would categorize it as a long shot that Trevon Diggs is going to be ready to play in week 1, but the fact that he's at least reintegrating into practice, a small piece of what the Cowboys need. That big one still remains to be figured out.
Tom, thank you. Man, how tough do things have to be to say it is a good piece of news when someone who was gravely injured last season might be available to the team? That's perhaps how people feel about this Micah Parsons spectacle from over the weekend. Now, there are social media posts out there as well from reporters that cover the Cowboys that say he wasn't actually on the table for that long, and Micah's got stances about that. But Manti, it still happened. Everything was still documented. What is your reaction to the latest part of this?
I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. And the reason why is last night I watched that documentary, the Cowboys documentary, guys. I watched one episode, and it was so enlightening. I don't need to see anything else. Like in that episode, Jerry Jones says this: I do believe if we're not being looked at, then I'll do my part to get us looked at. The Cowboys are a soap opera 365 days a year. When it gets slow, I'll stir it up. Guys, this is what it is. This is exactly what it is. Jerry Jones is a businessman. Jerry Jones understands that whenever anything happens, like we're over here debating if Micah Parsons walking in with nachos is a distraction. We're over here debating those types of things. Yes. Do I think that him laying on a massage table wasn't the best? Look, no, it wasn't, especially during a game. But this is what they want. This is what Jerry Jones wants. He wants his star player being filmed, walking into a thing with a hoodie on, eating nachos, and us discussing on the Monday, is this a big deal? Does this mean that they're going to sign him? Does this mean that they're not going to sign him? This is all part of it. And I learned it yesterday watching that documentary. So am I worried? No. Now, are these distractions? I don't think it's a distraction to that building. It's a distraction to all of us, and that's exactly what Jerry Jones wants. And I'm not a Cowboy. We have a former Cowboy sitting here named Isaiah, so I would be remiss if I didn't pass this thing over to him because he has an insider look. But by that first episode, guys, I'm not worried.
All you got to do is do your Mr. Burns fingers like this. No, listen, y'all, there's nothing to be worried about here. Jerry Jones is going to take care of business. As I've said on this show many times before, in regards to the star players for the star, that is the Dallas Cowboys, there is never, and I repeat, never been a situation where Jerry has not paid his guys. He's always taking care of his main players. It's the reason why the Michael Irvins, the Troy Aikmans, the Charles Haleys, everybody else that you ever name is still attached to the brand because he has always taken care of his guys. I don't know if you guys saw an interview with DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence even came on the air and was talking about how he goes, I don't really have nothing to say. That's their business because I took care of mine. He took care of me. He made me play on a franchise tag. He wanted me to show him more. I played well. He came back. He paid me. He was a man of his word. Jerry Jones is going to pay Micah Parsons. He will be on the field against Philadelphia. It's not on anybody else's timing. It is always going to be on Jerry Jones' timing. From his standpoint, he's under contract. From his standpoint, the deal has already been negotiated. And at the end of the day, your star player will be on the field, and he will be the highest non-quarterback paid in this league.
You good, KB?
Yo, KB. Doing a show here, Kyle.
KB, you need some nachos?
What? What happened? What's up? What's up? What up? When's the show start? What time is it?
We're all playing the game, Kyle. We need you to lock in and don't be a distraction from us trying to focus on the editorial maintenance
we live
of GMFB.
now?
It is happening.
We are here.
Oh, all right. Listen, I was up late last night. I was trying to, talk to the network and the media group about my future and stuff. So I just figured I would just take a nap here while you guys are out there playing and giving takes and doing your job. I would just lay out for a while. But it wasn't for that long. I want that clear. It was just like for a couple of minutes. It was a cat nap. So just don't get on me too hard. All right, let me collect myself. Hold on. Normally I'm ready for the show. All right. Have you guys been talking about this Micah Parsons thing? I was sleeping.
Loosely.
He was on a table. He had nachos. Manti, if you haven't seen it, the documentary that's out now is incredible. It really tells you how Jerry Jones feels about business. And we got to get to Isaiah's thoughts. I'm sorry, I'm totally discombobulated. Not a great image. If I was coaching Micah Parsons right now, and I don't mean like the Cowboys, like I'm talking about like if I was his team, I'd be like, just be like the best ever employee. Just be the best. Just show up, be like, I'm ready to work. I'm in shape. I feel great. Stand on the sideline, wear your jersey, cheer for the fourth stringers, do all that stuff. You can have the nachos in the locker room. Stand there, look great, look professional, look eager, look ready to play. It makes the Cowboys look bad for not wanting to pay you. This kind of stuff, listen, it's not going to change the world that he's eating nachos and lying on a table, but it pisses fans off. I mean, then Micah's tweet that says, listen, I wasn't lying there that long. You should see the replies. There's Cowboys fans who don't like it. They get people mad. They start to side with the Cowboys. I wouldn't have done it. Just stand there and be like, I'm a great player. I want to play the Eagles. I want to be compensated. Because the stuff that I'm told Tom P was saying earlier is like, so he's healthy, it sounds like. If he's going to do the thing where he's like, nope, I'm not playing the Philly game. I'm not going to Philly. All right, I respect you, but they can fine you $1 million a week. Like, that's a real thing. You want to talk business, that is very good business for the Cowboys to do that. So here we are, 10 days. What makes it now, Jamie, is that, like, it's not just fun and games anymore. It's not standing around in training camp. We have to get you on the field if you're going to be chasing Jalen Hurts in 10 days. Like, we have to get it now, like in the next couple of days. Or we don't even know if we want to put you out there if you do have a new contract, because if you have 1 day to get ready for the game, we don't want to put you out there and get you hurt. So it's supposed to be the fun is over now, and yet we got Nappy Poos and Nachos Belgrande and all that. So again, the Cowboys used to be a football company that made content on the side, and now they're a content company that makes football on the side. So congratulations.
Yeah, Kyle, not for nothing. It's as if Micah Parsons wants the Cowboys and, for example, their coaches to have his back so badly, but then he goes out and does that, and then you have the head coach, Isaiah, standing up at a press conference disclosing, sprinkling out the information that, well, the MRI seems to be looking pretty clear. So now it's pinging back to him, Isaiah. This is wild.
Yeah, it's a game of ping pong for sure. You know, Forrest Gump is out there full stream. But the reality is, for people at home that don't get to see things behind the scenes, Micah Parsons is prepared to take the field. Okay, I was at training camp. I was there every single day. I was covering the team. Micah Parsons is going through his walkthroughs. Micah Parsons is a part of the actual non-contact portion of practice. Micah Parsons is in the meeting rooms. Micah Parsons he's mentoring the young guys. He's talking to all the guys he's going to be playing next to. He's working out with the strength coaches before practice. He's doing all the things. When you talk about the defensive end position, and you can speak to this, Manti, as well, as a defensive player at that position, you don't need a lot of practice, right? You see ball, you'll get ball, right? The only thing that he needs to be able to do is be able to push against a 300-pound man and make sure that his lower half is conditioned for that. Other than that, he is fine. But I want people to know that was terrible. I totally agree with you, Kyle. The optics on that is bad. He needs to understand that all eyes are on him, not Tupac, but all eyes are on him all the time, just like they would be on Dak Prescott. But I can tell you guys, he is prepared to go. He has done everything that he needs to do to be prepared to assist his team come next Thursday.
Well, 2 weeks from Thursday, all eyes will be on a banner that will be revealed in Philadelphia. And that's just something that the Eagles get to brag about. Tom Pelissero, we're going to bring you back because the Eagles have been busy over the weekend making moves before tomorrow's roster cut, which will happen mid to late afternoon, depending on where you live. But yeah, the Eagles, they're not sitting back on their laurels, if you will. They're making sure they align themselves properly.
That's right, Jamie. The Eagles made 3 trades on Sunday, the most significant of which was acquiring a new backup quarterback. Team executing a trade with the Vikings for Sam Howell, who now has been traded 3 times in the past 18 months since he was the Commanders' starter back in 2023. Tanner McKee, who is the top backup to Jalen Hurts, dealing with a fracture in his thumb. So Sam Howell, at least for the early going, if McKee can't go week 1, he would be the number 2 and potentially 1 snap away from seeing the field. You see the full details of the trade right there. The team swapping 5th and 6th round picks in 2026. Vikings also getting a 7th round pick in 2027. Oddly enough, the player, as you saw there, that was waived to make room for Sam Howell, Lewis Cine, the former Vikings 1st round pick. And another Vikings-Eagles Vortex news, the new Vikings backup quarterback is Carson Wentz, the one-time Eagles franchise quarterback. He had been on the street to this point in the offseason. They have agreed to terms, expected to be, from my understanding, a minimum contract for Carson Wentz. So the financials on this for Minnesota are essentially a wash. Carson Wentz now the backup quarterback behind J.J. McCarthy, the number 3 quarterback for the Vikings. Max Brosmer, undrafted rookie out of the University of Minnesota. I'm sure, Jamie, if there are any further Eagles-Vikings developments on the anniversary of Sam Bradford once being traded to the Vikings from the Eagles, we will have those for you throughout the day.
Yeah, of course. Those 2 teams make history in August. They do it in January. It all is connected in the NFL tissue. Tom Pelissero, thank you so much. Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. If you're not talking about Micah, you're talking about Shedeur. He had one last chance to impress this weekend. So let's take a long look at him in action against the Rams and ask if that performance was good enough to make him the team's backup. He seems convinced so, Kyle. He had an answer to that question about making the 53-man roster.
I like it, and I also like that the final preseason games of 2025 have concluded.
Hey!
I'm a fan of that. Let's see some of the best plays, though, all right? You know the action that had us saying there's no way that happened.
People wanted to put the Browns highlight first in this segment. I said, no, there is a number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward that we must discuss out of Miami. However, red alert, he hadn't thrown a touchdown yet in the preseason. I don't care. He looks great. First quarter slinging it to Van Jefferson, finds him for a big 17-yard gain. Takes it all the way down to the 27. 4 plays later, Cam Ward, Alec Iomanner over the middle. Nice 13-yard gain against the Vikings. Iomanner, of course, is a 4th-round pick out of Stanford. 8 plays later, Julius Chestnut up and over the top. Cam Ward, end zone, 1-yard touchdown. Titans going to win this one 23-13. There he is, Cam Ward, looking all happy. Oh, with his friend. That's good. That's helpful.
A lot of friends, a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of quarterback talk. Talking about quarterbacks, check out this quarterback room. What's going on here? The Saints are the only team not to name a starter going into week 1, but we all know who's the starter of the Denver Broncos. There's Bo Nix. Bo Nix will have his final preseason start, and he hits his favorite target, Courtland Sutton. That whole drive was mainly Courtland Sutton.
Nice.
You love to see that chemistry and the camaraderie for Bo Nix. But Spencer Rattler will start off this game for the New Orleans Saints. They went back to the week 1 kind of rotation at quarterback. He finds Chris Olave here on a quick little out route by the former Ohio State quarterback Tyler Shough will come into the game. In the second quarter, Shough went 24 for 34, 225 yards. But he had this scramble for the left touchdown, Saints. Now, there was a lot of kicks by Blake Grupe, a former Notre Dame kicker. I think he had more points than the Saints offense, but 28-19, put a ball on it, Saints, and please give us a starting quarterback.
All right, well, the Browns have that. I'm not sure about the Rams yet, and there's always discussion about the Browns, but guess what Flacco did in this game? Came out and went 9 of 10. 9 of 10. That's Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. Flacco looks sharp. We'll see you in the opener. And now let's get into the complications, if you will. All right, Dillon Gabriel, rookie quarterback, promising looking. Browns obviously really like him. On a 3rd and 7, that left-handed shot, got it. That is Jamari Thrash, who makes the toe drag swag. Shout out Burleson. It's 1st and goal. Gabriel. Gage Larvadon. I'm terrible this morning with the pronunciations, guys. Wow. Is that Deshaun Watson on the right? I think it was. I can say his name. All right, and I can say this one. Shedeur Sanders. He missed last week with an oblique injury. A lot of love there. A lot of 12 jerseys, a lot of phones up. Shedeur on a 2nd and 12. This is the 4th quarter now. He's going to run. He's going to scramble. He's doing the Tecmo Bowl thing, and he gets sacked. That is a loss of 24 yards. That was the 4th sack he took of the game. Browns 3 and out on 4 drives led by Sanders, albeit heavily with backups and 12 stringers. There's another one. Trying to out-athlete everybody. Makes a great play, and it's dropped. This could have been a very cool highlight for him, but it was right off the hands of Travion Williams. Sanders can't believe it. Scramble, spin, hold on to the ball, and watch right here. Got him. It was a little bit behind him, but it's a catch you can make. The Browns fan, look at that guy was acting out how the ball was behind him. Shedeur walking, pacing, keeping his mouth shut, doing everything he can with not the first-team All-Pros around him. Dillon Gabriel was 12 of 19 with a touchdown. Really the most important headline here is that Flacco was sharp, and he's going to start the opener. But certainly there'll be more things to talk about here. Shedeur Sanders talked after the game about whether he thinks he played well enough to make the final 53-man roster.
Overall, as a player, I feel like I put in the work. I feel like everything I do, I try to do it to my best, and that's all I ask for. So I feel like everybody feels like, they should be on the team, and if you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player. I think about myself in a high regard, of course. So it's not my decision.
I have to imagine that's part of the heartbreak of just spending the entire preseason and training camp together as a team. It's that you become one. However, roster cutdown day looms for all organizations. But during that last preseason game, Browns general manager Andrew Berry told NFL Network's Chris Rose that He thinks keeping 4 quarterbacks is not a problem for the Browns, but sees it more as an opportunity. Manti, what do you, again, to reset, make of this Browns quarterback situation and the possibility of that being the reality?
Why?
Why?
Why do you need all 4? Because technically you have 5. Like Deshaun Watson is coming back this season, so technically you're holding 5. Now, if I had to tell you which 4 you should use, it's the 3 that actually played. So there's Kenny Pickett out there that we haven't seen all preseason. Has Shedeur done enough to make this 53-man roster? I believe he has. Why? Because he's actually played. And in the first preseason game, he actually did pretty well. Now, Dylan Gabriel goes in there, and I thought he looked phenomenal. I thought he looked accurate. There was one pass he had where he threw it a little high. But other than that, those out routes, which you know this, Zay, that's the hardest ball to throw in football. Dylan Gabriel was delivering them nicely. He did it last week. He did it this week. Now, Joe Flacco started the game. Joe Flacco looked like the starter. He looked like the veteran. He looked like a Super Bowl guy. He looked like there's no situation that he hasn't seen. Now, the competition is who's the backup. And I think those 2 rookies put in a lot of work. They put on a lot of tape, both good and bad. But they made a case that they should make this 53-man roster. So to keep 4 quarterbacks, technically 5, I don't know why you have to go that route. Like, let's make a decision. I think we all can see what it should be. I just don't know, Isaiah, why this is even a conversation.
Yeah, Michael Jackson. Why? Listen, it's silly. This whole situation with Cleveland is terrible. We all know it. The optics are terrible. The internal aspect is terrible. The reason why they're going to keep 4 or 5 quarterbacks is terrible. The situation that Shedeur was put in was terrible. It is what it is, man. And he understands that. He's coached up. He's been around the media. He's not going to say anything that's going to be condemning to him and his situation. The reality is the game in which he was given the tools he needed in order to be successful, he did well. Just like the person, Dylan Gabriel. He was given the same tools. He was successful. So we know when you're in there with the guys that can do their assignments, the guys that can communicate, the guys that can have the proper timing, the guys that are able to protect, you can do your job. When you're out there with guys that literally might have just been picked up, guys that are out there, worried about getting that off the snap at the right time. He didn't have the tools needed. Now, did he help himself in the situation? Absolutely not. He was going out there taking sacks, dropping back, doing all the things. I've been in a position before where you didn't have the guys out there. You're trying to make something happen because you understand that this is your only opportunity. But to not be given the opportunity to go out there and finish the game, it's just a lot of optics there that just don't look right to me nor feel right. But the situation is what it is. These guys are going to have 4 or 5 quarterbacks on their roster. And to me, that's silly because even the second quarterback on the depth chart hardly, and I mean hardly, gets any reps during practice. They call those guys card guys. They hold the cards up, and those guys literally run the plays that are on the cards for the scout team. That's what the number 2 quarterback does all week long. So what is 3, 4, and 5 going to do?
I hear you, man. I do, and I hear the passion in your voice. I have it myself. There's so much noise coming off of this preseason game, a lot of noise, and it's not coming from Shedeur. He played as hard as he could. He said all the right things after the game, and I totally respect it. Let's just do a quick recap. Joe Flacco played really well. Dylan Gabriel played, he played well. And then the 5th-round rookie played, and it was all over the place. And I see people angry that he's out there with backups and deep backups. Do you think he's going to be out there with the starters? And you say, well, no, he's different. He's a special player. He's not a special player right now. He has a special background. He has a special media relationship. But no, he doesn't get special treatment. He doesn't cut the line. He shouldn't get handled differently. And I'll tell you this, Shedeur Sanders in this preseason threw 29 passes. That is more than Jalen Milroe on the Seahawks, who was drafted 2 rounds ahead of him. He had chances. And I see people upset that Shedeur was taken out of the game at the end, that he should have been able to run the Browns' final 2-minute drill, but he was taken out for Snoop Huntley. Well, maybe Kevin Stefanski had seen enough. Maybe you don't want a rookie or any player to take 5 sacks in a preseason game. Maybe you thought it wasn't right for Shedeur, so you say get him out. Or maybe it's Kevin Stefanski's job to evaluate all the players that he'd seen a ton of Shedeur, and he wanted to see something from Snoop Huntley, a guy who came into a tough situation in training camp and worked his butt off. Snoop got them the game-winning field goal and has promptly been cut. I just, guys, can't for 1 second really embrace any notion or theory that the Browns said, yes, let's draft Shedeur just to intentionally mess him up, okay? He is getting more opportunities than any other quarterback 3/quarterback 4 in the league. And, depending on what you read on the internet, first with Shedeur, it was a league conspiracy, and now the Browns coach is conspiring against him. At what point is it the responsibility of the player? And again, Shedeur's playing hard and keeping his mouth shut. I respect it. But anyone who thinks Shedeur isn't getting fair treatment, I will tell you that the 5th-round pick just completed 3 passes for 14 yards and took 5 sacks in his final preseason audition. And he's going to make the 53-man roster as one of 4 quarterbacks. So if you think he's getting unfair treatment, I think you're right.
Oh, Kyle, we disagree on this one. The reality is,
go ahead.
I do believe that there is some foolery going on in regards to the draft. I also believe, and I know for sure, not necessarily in Shedeur's case, but I've seen it, and Manti, you've seen it too. There are politics in every workplace. There's politics in this building. There's politics in media. There's politics in football. We've seen it. We've been a part of the politics. What is going on and why it's taking place? I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the fact that mistreatment and misuse happens all the time. Now, to your point, you do what you can do, you control what you can control, and you handle the situation the best way that you can. But to your point, it's not fair. You're not looking for it to necessarily be fair, but you have to be giving an opportunity to actually have some success. And when he was given the opportunity to have some success with the guys who were capable of doing their jobs the right way, he had that success. So to your point, when you look at the situation where he gets taken out of the last drive, if you truly wanted to see what he was capable of doing, like he did prior weeks, why would you take him out of that game for somebody that you know you're not keeping on this roster? You don't need to see him. I don't need to see Snoop. Snoop's not going to be on this roster. So regardless of how I respect Snoop, Snoop was only on this roster because of injuries, right? We had 3 quarterbacks out. I didn't need to see Snoop. I did need to see whether or not Shedeur could bounce back from those sacks. Could he bounce back from the detriment that he's had? Could he bounce back from all the media scrutiny? I needed to see that, and they didn't want to see that. We've seen players get buried on rosters before. There's guys that don't get opportunities in the preseason in this game today because coaches don't want other teams to see them. They're really good players, so we know what they're capable of doing, so let's put them back here. We don't want them to go out there on the field and play because if they do, then other 31 teams can come pluck them. But no, we want to keep them down so that we can cut them and then we can bring them back on a roster as a practice squad player. This stuff happens all the time, and it's the things, the politics of sports, and again, it happens in everybody's workplace.
I want to see Shedeur on the field, too. I want to see him bounce back. Like, he gave him several opportunities to bounce back from 5 different sacks that he took. I mentioned it. The stats are right there. You don't find quarterbacks drafted in the 5th round who throw 29 passes in the preseason. That's where he was. Dylan Gabriel was a guy they invested in more than him. He should have played more than them. And I wonder, Isaiah, like, what is it that you're alleging? Like, let's just put cards on the table here. Like, we're saying there's all these conspiracies about the Browns are doing this at the draft and the Stefanski's doing this. What is it that you think is going on?
I don't want to conspire as to what's taking place, but what I do know as a former quarterback, you can give me 30 passes. But if I'm dropping back and there's guys that can't protect, what are you really setting me up to do? I'm getting set up to take sacks. I'm getting set up to try to manipulate, to try to find a way to make something happen. Trust me, everybody who's been.
Why should he play with the starters?
No. I'm not saying the starters. I'm not saying the starters, right? But in this position, and you're right, because of where he's at on the depth chart, he's not going to play with those other guys that are capable of doing the job at the level that he's capable of delivering. We saw him deliver with those guys. But what I'm saying is, you're not, even though you're given the opportunity to throw the ball, you're not in a position to be successful when you have guys that can't protect you.
Well, then how can you make the argument for guys in the past, historically, who have gone in and won their job right out with players that are in the 4th and 5th? Like, I'm thinking of the Russell Wilson experience in Seattle. Like, did he not come in training camp and beat out the guy that was playing with the starters? Like, how do you compare it to that?
No, that's a fair analysis. The reality is all teams aren't made the same, though, Jamie. Right? All offensive lines aren't made the same. If anybody loves football, go back and watch it. Everybody go on the NFL. You guys have the NFL Plus. Go grab it and go watch the film and tell me that the guys that were responsible for protecting Shedeur Sanders were actually able to go out there and execute their job. They weren't. They were not. And I love the fact that you're saying, Kyle, that he had opportunity to throw the ball. Those guys, it comes down to timing. It comes down to protection. It comes down to being able to execute your assignments, not having any mental errors. All these things take place in order for you to be successful as a QB. So many things are dependent on you to be successful because you need everybody else to do their job.
The true test is like, Isaiah, how much of the passion that you're feeling right now is because it's Shedeur Sanders?
None.
Like, it's what you're saying is like, he should have had more of Dylan Gabriel's reps. Well, Dylan Gabriel's doing his thing. Dylan Gabriel is drafted way before him. They invested a lot more in him. So, like, I'm the third guy here. I'm playing well. I'm throwing touchdowns. So I just wonder if it was a 5th-round pick named Joe Smith who threw a couple of touchdowns against the Panthers. Would everyone be stomping their feet about why? It seems to be very concentrated on him, and it has a lot to do with his fame and his father. We're still there. I just don't know if you'd be saying the same thing if it was some third-string guy on the Browns. It's because it's Shedeur Sanders, right?
Well, the only reason why we're talking about this is because it's Shedeur Sanders, right? But the reality is the mistreatment would be the same. Right, we don't have time to talk about it, about all the things that I've experienced. I've been put in situations in college when I was playing at the University of Washington, when I was 3rd on the depth chart somehow, some way, and then all of a sudden we get to play the number 1 team in the nation in USC, and now all of a sudden I'm playing and I'm starting in that game, and I'm given 10 plays out of 150 plays to go out there and have success. I was given the opportunity on national TV. In the NFL, I've been out there where I'm thrown out in the position. I was a quarterback in college. Now I'm thrown out there to play kickoff return. I'm going out there to play all these other positions to have an opportunity. I hadn't even practiced those reps. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that optically it looks like, oh, yeah, they're given a chance. Are you really, though? Are you really being set up for success, or are you just thrown in a situation and say, hey, go figure it out? I don't know how to swim. Get out there, figure it out.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best setup, but it is an opportunity. I think that's what everybody's trying to get to. Is like, it's an opportunity. Whether it's a great opportunity or not, it is an opportunity. You got to make the best out of it. There are some that take advantage of it. There are some that don't. And I think that Shedeur has done his best to take advantage of that scenario. I just think that there's so many different narratives that we're all trying to poke at this thing. Is, listen, you're not going to have a lot of people at the end of the game, the 3rd preseason game, that's going to make that roster. Right. So I see where Zay is coming from. I also see where KB is from. It's like you've had a lot of opportunities. You've had a lot of good plays and bad plays. It's just hard for us right now to kind of decipher between it all.
I also think as a collective on Good Morning Football, we've also just tried to help the Browns as best we can to help us understand what you're trying to do. Seriously. And we will go out and help with that conversation. But that's actually where I think where a lot of the confusion and the argumentative nature of this topic even is based in. We could keep going, but we can't on GMFB. But unfortunately for you, we're going to keep talking about it in the commercial.
If you're going to be any good, you got to beat the best teams. You have to beat them. And so if this division is loaded with that's what's going to make us what we are. And, going against Andy and Sean and Jimmy down there, it couldn't be any more challenging.
Back in mid-January, by hiring Pete Carroll, the Las Vegas Raiders rounded out the most prolific group of head coaches in a single division in NFL history. With Carroll joining Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, this foursome made NFL history as the first set of head coaches in a division to all have coached in a Super Bowl. And that fact is the most boring part about these 4 football stories. Harbaugh, Payton, Carroll, and Reid carry chapters in the football history books over the last 55 years. But what does that look like compared to everything else that happened in the world? Don't be alarmed. This is not meant to make anyone feel old. Instead, we're here to appreciate the vintage, long-tenured nature of success in this division. All roads lead us here to the 2025 AFC West. We begin in 1971, January. The first of 205 episodes of All in the Family airs on CBS. Executives were nervous that Archie Bunker and company would offend. Instead, the show became a cultural phenomenon and the #1 series in America from 71 through 1975. In March, the fight of the century between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier threw down at Madison Square Garden. Growing up at this time, you would have been highly impacted by shows and events like these. For example, perhaps on a quiet street in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania, Sean Payton was growing up in a suburb of Philadelphia. In 1971, Sean Payton was 8 years old, and he was being raised an Eagles and Phillies fan. Perhaps a young Sean Payton visited the newly opened Veterans Stadium in 71 a couple of times, but he also may have begged his parents to buy him a ticket to the movie theater to see the original Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory when it hit theaters in June of 71. Now let's check in on another 8-year-old in 1971. Iowa City, beginning of the school year, the Harbaugh house. While chasing his big brother John down the street after school at Roosevelt Elementary, Jim Harbaugh had a jacket pulled over his eyes and was struck by an Iowa City mail truck. Jim broke his leg in 2 places and wore a cast for the first 6 months of first grade. He would later meet the driver of the mail truck named Dan McGivern to review the story. Later in the fall of 71, October 1st, Disney World would open in Florida. Only 10,000 people showed up. Intentionally, this was a quiet rollout executed by Disney to avoid the insanity that was overwhelmed by the 1955 opening of Disneyland. Also in October of 71, Pete Carroll's 20 years old, and he had recently transferred to the University of the Pacific. In this article from the Pacifican, it reads, Carroll has earned the reputation that is so valuable to those who dwell in the no man's land of the defensive secondary. He's a hitter. The mayor of Ding City is what head coach Homer Smith called him. He roams his secondary turf with reckless abandon. Now, lastly, would it surprise you if I told you you would have seen a 13-year-old Andy Reid in 1971? Because you have. Andy Reid competed in the punt, pass, and kick competition in December of 71 during a Monday Night Football broadcast. It's memories, it's football, and it had only just begun. I take you to 1979. In the early part of the year, the world was ravaged by the oil crisis. So when I say the words gas shortage to people like Pete Carroll, the memory triggered will likely be sitting in lines at a gas station on the day that your even number license plate was allowed to get gas. Having graduated from Pacific, Pete Carroll, now 28, is in the big boy job ranks as a DB coach at Ohio State. His oldest son, Brennan, is born in 1979, March. It was a good time to be a kid because Nickelodeon was launched the next month in April of 79. You would recognize you can't do that and be comforted to know that slime has been around since the late 70s. In the summer of 79, June, Sony releases the Walkman. The words portable and personal had never been paired together before with music. So I do wonder if Andy Reid was given a new Walkman upon transferring to BYU in the summer of 79. Reid left Glendale Junior College to become a part of Jim McMahon's line as a backup tackle for the Cougars. Andy was so enigmatic in his football IQ that his head coach, Lavelle Edwards, would hire him as a grad assistant to launch Reid's coaching career. Also in the fall of 79, Harbaugh and Peyton were shoulder deep in their high school football days. Jim in Ann Arbor still was playing alongside his brother at Pioneer High School. John was a senior DB and Jim was a sophomore quarterback for the JV. Their dad was an assistant at Michigan at the time. And elsewhere in the Midwest, Sean Payton's family had moved to Naperville, Illinois, where Peyton was playing for the Naperville Central High School team. And he would play quarterback, however, still backing up in 79. He'd be the starter in 82. And finally, to close out 1979, if you were holiday shopping for any one of these young men, the Atari VCS was the #1 Christmas gift at the time. The console came with 2 joysticks, a paddle controller, and a game. And the game was Combat. That's a look at the 70s, and all roads lead west in the AFC West, if you will. This is a 5-day experience, and you can guess tomorrow it'll be 80s and so on and so forth until we take you to current day 2025 with those 4 coaches in the NFL. We'll be right back on Good Morning Football.
All right, welcome back. Officiating. You heard that word, just looked up from your coffee. Everyone's got an opinion on it, but no one has more information about it than the man to my right, the NFL officiating rules analyst, the pride of Sugar Land, Texas, Mr. Walt Anderson in studio. How are we doing, Walt?
Great, Cal. Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm thrilled to see you. You're classing up the place. We have a million questions for you. I know you have answers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's go.
Very cool word, very cool term. Hawkeye. It sounds exciting. It's one of the Avengers. It's Iowa, but it's also the technology we're going to use to measure first downs this season.
Yes.
As a former official, as the position you're in now, how will Hawkeye change the game?
Well, what Hawkeye is going to do different this year is it's going to do the virtual measurement. Mm-hmm. So instead of actually bringing the chains out to measure the football, the officials will still spot the football. Mm-hmm. But the Hawkeye system, they've got 6 cameras. They triangulate the position of the football, and then their system will measure the ball. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it'll reduce the time that it takes to bring the chains out.
Quick.
Right.
Jamie in LA, what do you think?
Well, as we all have just been pouring ourselves into preseason football right now. And there was a play from over the weekend in the Rams-Browns game that I would love to pick your brain about. So the setting goes that Browns defensive end Isaiah McGuire dropped Jarquez Hunter for no gain. He was penalized then, though, for unsportsmanlike conduct. And in my mind, I'm asking, why was this a flag on this type of tackle? And how do we expect plays like this to go in force this season?
Well, Jamie, great question. It wasn't the tackle that was penalized. It was the gesture he made after the play. And the league has certain gestures that players just cannot do. Throat slash, nose swipe. And it was that action that he did is what the penalty was for. It wasn't the tackle. There was nothing wrong with the tackle.
Understood.
All right, Mr. Walt, I have a three-part question for you, okay? So now as a former kick returner, I love the fact that that part of the game is coming back. As a kick return game now, the ball can come out to the 20, the 35, or the 40. I would like for you to explain those different situations in which the ball comes out to those markers. But on this particular play in the Falcons versus Cowboys game, Jaden Blue caught the ball going into the end zone. The momentum carried him in, and he walked into it. Then he took a knee. What happened here, and why did it happen?
Well, Isaiah, you're very astute in bringing up the momentum. What was fortunate for Dallas was that his second foot touched in the end zone, which the ball then lands in the landing zone, which is between the 20 and the goal line. Had his right foot landed in the field of play, then that would have been a true momentum situation. Dallas would have had to taken the ball at the 1 yard line. But because one foot was in the green, one foot was in the end zone, that's why this came out to the 20-yard line. If he gets both feet in the end zone and he catches the ball for a touchback, that's when it comes out to the 35-yard line.
Okay. Manti?
Well, so let's keep on to the topic of kicking. Will we see more onside kicks this year?
Manti, I think you'll see more onside kicks because part of the rule change is you can now declare and attempt an onside kick if you're behind at any time during the game. Last year, it was only during the fourth quarter. So you may see more attempts. What's the other big difference is we've moved the kicking team players. You see them there at the 34-yard line. They're now going to be positioned at the 35. So that extra yard is intended to give them a yard head start, and hopefully that will increase the recovery rate. That's what's been down in the NFL, and the NFL hopes that recovery rate gets up to a little bit more where it was historically in the 10 to 12%.
But if a team is down 20 in the third quarter, they can onside kick now. However, they always still have to inform the kick. There's still no surprise onside kick.
There's no surprise onside kick, but if they're behind, they can attempt it at any point during the game.
Sometimes teams use the onside kick to get to overtime. Overtime, very exciting thing. We've seen a couple overtime Super Bowls in this era. Overtime changing during the regular season. So week one, well, it's 10 days away. Eagles, Cowboys are going to be playing. Maybe they go to overtime. What will be different if they do?
Well, the big difference, Kyle, is that, as you know, in the past, in regular season, if the first team scores a touchdown, it's over with. For this year, just like we have now in the playoffs, if the first team scores a touchdown, the other team still gets a chance to possess the football. So even with a touchdown, on the defense, if I'm on defense, I still get to get the ball and try to score a touchdown. What you're probably going to see now is because of that, there may be some different changes in strategies. Because in the past, during the regular season, you would always take the football. You would never want to kick. Now, just like in the postseason, there may be some different strategies that come into play because whoever gets the ball second, if you score a touchdown, you can go for two and potentially then end the game right there.
That's exciting. So Cowboys-Eagles goes to overtime. Eagles get the ball first. They score a touchdown. The game's not over. Cowboys get the ball, score a touchdown. Let's say they just tie it again. We will still have a tie if overtime expires, right?
Then we're in what people are used to referring to as sudden death. The first team to score will win.
The third possession is a field goal. That's a win. It's over.
That's a win. It's over.
I'm ready for football. I'm ready. I love having you here. I want to ask you a personal question before you go. I've always been interested in this. We talk about officials all the time. We feel like they're colleagues of ours. I've gotten to meet some. What is something that happens in your life? How do you get to officiating? Because I always see these officials, they take a lot of heat. They have a lot of pressure. They become famous. They're all over the internet. What is the draw to be into officiating in 2025? Because there's a lot of negative. Tell us some of the positive.
Well, most of us are involved in this because we love football, to be a part of the game. And as necessary as officiating is, the game couldn't be played without us.
Correct.
But the reality is, anonymity is what we're really striving for. The last thing we want to do is have you talking about us on Monday morning. So from that standpoint, officials, you start out early. You start with little leagues, junior highs, high school, college. You work your way up.
Yeah.
And then eventually, if you're good enough, the league somewhat it drafts you. We just don't televise the officiating draft.
Someday we will. That is incredible. We will be there for the officiating draft at some point. Until then, we have Walt here. Just a pleasure to have you in studio. Walt Anderson, the guy who knows it all and is going to try to help us learn a little bit. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cal.
That's the man right there. More Good Morning Football after this, guys. We're 10 days from kickoff. It's real.
The Rams have built a reputation for doing preseason prep their own way, from Sean McVay's focus on rest and recovery to holding this year's minicamp in Maui. They're always pushing new ideas to gain an edge. And now, for the second year in a row, the Rams are taking it even further, outfitting their players, coaches, and staff with 150 Sleep Number beds at training camp. In this episode of Gaining Greatness, presented by Sleep Number, we take you inside how the Rams turn recovery into a competitive advantage.
When we unload the bed, Nick will provide you with a room number where that bed needs to go. 202A and 204C.
Sleep Number in this relationship has been awesome. Number one, LMU with Sleep Number's installment team. They'll be able to get that product in there so we know these guys are gonna have a quality environment to get some sleep is awesome. At the end of the day, it goes back to it's our number one recovery strategy. The focus on that is real, and you can see that investment in that and by the logistics and everything we do to make sure that can be provided for them. So for us to be able to even stay consistent with something that they might even have at their house in terms of a Sleep Number bed, that's very valuable to help them to get some good quality sleep at night.
This is the living quarters for camp. They even blessed us with king-size Sleep Number beds. The same type of bed that I use at home. This is what allows me to save my legs and not be sore. And now it's time to kick the feet up, man. It's time to go to sleep, and it's time to really use this Sleep Number for what it's for. Good night, world.
You know how relaxed you have to be to allow that camera to film you sleeping? It's cool. Check out the full episode and more stories like these at NFL.com/gaining greatness. Isaiah, you're laughing, but I'm being serious. You're like, Puka's just like, nighty-night. And the camera's like, it's all good. We're zooming in.
You don't have a camera that watches you when you sleep, Jamie?
That's something else, man.
Yeah,
I've never heard of a team actually doing that. That's cool. That's cool. Like right on. Like,
I want
right
one
on
of those
Rams.
beds.
I know.
They look awesome.
You needed
I want
one
a
at the
bed with a
beginning of the
remote
show,
control.
KB. You needed one when you're lying on your
I want
desk.
it. I want that thing. I've never had it. It looks great. They look thrilled. I think they're going to win the division because of it. I do. Write that down.
That is the differentiator. It's a well-slept Rams team.
Back on third down. Quick pass. Broken up and intercepted by Kendricks. On a deflection.
Eric Kendricks, Johnny on the spot. It's just a slant route on that right side of the Panthers formation. And Eric Kendricks gets his second interception of the season.
Johnny on the spot takes a lot of skill to be in the right position, though, if you're linebacker Eric Kendricks with that play. Getting it down on the field for the Cowboys. And he's at the table with us now for the breakfast table. What's up, Eric? Eric, good to see those highlights of you wearing the star on your helmet, but many people know you in the Vikings purple. Are you done playing? Are you still, what's going on with you these days?
No. I'm definitely playing.
Yeah?
I feel like I'm coming off a solid season. Still having fun. Body feels great.
Good.
Just looking to be an asset to a team.
Absolutely.
I love that. We know your shoulder is in good shape because you're posting videos doing walking handstands, dude. What's going on? I think we have the video. This is a good way to show that you're ready to play football. What is going on in this video? Go ahead and roll it. And how many takes did this take? Talk us through it.
It was actually the first take. I hurt my shoulder like fourth or fifth game of the season, so I had shoulder surgery this past year. And if anyone knows me, really knows that I can crank out handstands anywhere and just kind of do them Disneyland, on the field. Doesn't matter. I just kind of crank them out. So I think I was just eager to do that.
We don't have the video.
This is about 3.5
We got to do it in studio now.
3.5 months after. 3.5 months after my surgery, I was just kind of asked my doctor, hey, am I good to do a handstand?
Yeah.
Cool. Cranked it out.
That's a normal question.
Oh, my God.
That's a normal question.
Yeah, that is a normal question.
We
You're
may
right.
not have the handstands, but we got a lot of things that you did on video, especially on the field. Now, you spent 10 years in the NFL, and I didn't know this, but your first sack was against Sean Payton. Now,
Peyton Manning.
I mean Sean Payton.
I just said I used Sean Payton's name like 27 times.
Peyton Manning. Now, my mom loved Peyton Manning. And I remember when I first played against the Broncos and Peyton Manning was a quarterback, my mom's first reaction after the game wasn't like, how was it, son? It was like, how was it playing against Peyton Manning? When you had that play, what was that interaction with your mom like? Like, how did take us through that?
It was crazy because I wasn't really supposed to be blitzing, but it was an ad rush, so I had the running back in man coverage, and I kind of looped around, and I really wanted to hit him, but if you know the Manning brothers, they kind of just fall before you hit them. So I kind of went right over the top of him, got my first sack, and I remember after the game, I came up to him, I was like, "Hey man, like you were my first sack," and he just kind of looked at me like, "Cool, like who cares?" Like this is like I was a rookie, he's a vet, so we actually talked about that story later on in life, and we had a good laugh about it.
So he's still on your sack mantle, so it's all good. So anybody who knows you and knows your game understands that you are a tackling machine, right? You love getting guys down to the ground. Nobody gets around you. Who was the most difficult quarterback for you to sack?
That's a hard question. I feel like there's a couple that I haven't sacked, but I think the one that I have sacked that was the hardest for me to get there was Ben Roethlisberger. That was my favorite quarterback growing up. And I remember we played him a couple years early on in my career, and I kind of just bounced off of him, and he threw it downfield to Antonio Brown, and it was kind of like, man, this guy's large, you know what I mean? Yeah. But here I am getting the sack, and I kind of had to put my whole body weight on him and slam him to the ground. So I was super hyped about that one because that was obviously my favorite quarterback growing up.
So you had him wrapped up, and in the middle of that, wrapping him up. What was your mindset?
I was so juiced. I had a free rush at him. It wasn't like I had to beat anybody. It was just like a missing protection, and I got a free hit. So it was lovely.
So it wasn't getting to him. It was getting him on the ground.
Yeah, it was getting. Like I said, I bounced off of him earlier in my career. Like what the this dude is a pinball.
Eric, what I love about when guys show up at the table, whether or not they're still playing, thinking about still playing, you're clearly here because maybe you're trying like media on for size, if you will, being on TV. So we have to ask you about the Vikings, okay? Because now
Let's do it. All
take a look at Minnesota and the fact that J.J. McCarthy is kind of the topic du jour, if you will, all preseason long. What have you seen from the quarterback? Like, watched practices, preseason games. It's a unique situation. Team's really experienced, but he's a second-year quarterback that hasn't played before.
I feel like I've heard a lot of great things about him, first of all, from his character standpoint, first and foremost. Obviously he showed us good things, but, I really trust in Kevin O'Connell, to really raise him, in this system. I feel like last year wasn't ideal for him. He was hurt. Obviously as a competitor, you want to be in there, but grand scheme of things, I don't think it was a bad thing for him to sit and observe and really learn the game of football. NFL's a little bit different. I think he's in great hands, and JJ's down there somewhere, so just throw it up. Just
the deep ground.
just throw it somewhere downfield where JJ's at. You'll be all right.
I know Kyle know about the D Brown, but listen, you were in Dallas last year. All right, you played with Micah Parsons. You've also dealt with the ownership of Mr. Jerry Jones as well as the GM Jerry Jones. What is your take as to what's taking place down there right now?
I feel like we never know really what to expect. I feel like you can't get caught guessing at the same time. But I know two things. They love the theatrics in Dallas, and then they love their talent that they draft. So I assume that they're going to get something done.
And being able to see different organizations, though, Eric, like there's this impression of the Cowboys that they are a content company that does football on the side instead of a football company that does content on the side. Did you feel that stuff? Like it's all about theatrics and shows and selling jerseys and making Netflix specials, and then, we'll get to the football.
I feel like it's a little bit of that for sure. I feel like you can't avoid it. Walking through the building, the star, the media attention, the hype, the fan base. You really can't avoid it. But I feel like once you get in the locker room, once you get in the behind the team meeting rooms, you try to make that separation as best as you can. I feel like sometimes it naturally just blends, but that's the name of the sport. You got to be able to still compete.
We had one of your former longtime teammates here. We had Anthony Barr in studio last week, and he was telling us how he just couldn't stand playing the Packers. Like, there's a healthy hate, Vikings, Packers. I totally get it. But from what I understand, it wasn't Aaron Rodgers or any quarterback that drove you nuts. It was a particular offensive coordinator who may now be a head coach. Tell us about this. I love that.
Yeah, Ben Johnson, it's a love-hate relationship. I feel like you appreciate playing against him, but you also hate it because the game plan's always changing. That he makes adjustments by the quarter, by the drive, by the half, and you're kind of forced to chase it around to see where you're going. But I'm really curious to see what they do in Chicago because I feel like they've been building their team out for a couple years now, and they're a sleeper team. I feel like I said, with Ben Johnson's my favorite coordinator. Hate him, but at the same time, I think he's going to get things cracking there.
Well, tell us a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, Eric. How is that going against him? Like, how is that rivalry between the two of you?
Yeah, I feel like I learned so much football by playing against him. The cat and mouse game, the chess game on the field. We played him two games in a row every year for the division, and it just made football so fun for me early on, and it got me addicted to that that back and forth between the quarterback and linebacker play, and just the adjustments that you have to make during the game to be successful.
Well, besides training this offseason and doing handstands, you had a cameo in The Fresh Prince. Bro, this guy was everywhere.
Yeah.
What? Like, tell us about that. What was that like?
Yeah, that was actually 2 years ago, but I feel like in the off seasons I try to join my friends whatever job they do, or I try to shadow them and see what I like. But at the same time, I got offered this opportunity, and I'm like, man, I've been in LA for how long? I've never done anything with film or TV. Let me go ahead and check this out. Like, let me go ahead and see what this is about. Showed up on set, have a newfound respect for actors and actresses and things like that. But it was a lot of fun, crazy. It was with a couple of other NFL guys, so it made it cool.
That's unbelievable. Like, we did not think that this interview was going to go there to the Fresh Prince. Like, that's so cool. We thought we'd talk about football. Fresh Prince is great, but I'm going to go back to football. Eric, before you go, we asked Anthony the same thing. Most talented guy you've ever played with and most talented player you've ever played against?
That's a good question. Most talented guy I've ever played with? I'm gonna say a wild card here. I'm gonna say Harrison Smith. I feel like
Nice.
we got a Notre Dame guy right here at the table, but I feel like JJ would be the obvious answer, from a athletic standpoint. But Harrison Smith, he really taught me my mentality getting to the league as far as toughness, physicality, be a consistent player every day in and day out, and just having your own process. Harrison Smith is the guy who has his own process, and you can't argue with it. The proof is in the pudding. And I mean, he's one of the most consistent players I know in the league ever to live. So shout out to Harry.
And what about against?
Against? Man, player to play against. It's hard to not say Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
I feel like I've been in coverage so many times with Aaron Rodgers, and sticky coverage too, and he kind of just throws the ball up on his back foot, and it just kind of finds the person's hands. Super frustrating, but we definitely had a lot of battles.
Yeah, EK, before we let you get up out of here, man, I want you to go to the one shot. All right, let everybody out there know, as they're starting to figure out their rosters right now, they're going to get cut down days tomorrow. Talk to all the GMs out there and let them know, say, if you guys haven't watched my film, this is why you guys need to pick me up on your squad. Go ahead and talk.
10 straight years of consistent work, you know what I mean? For real, though, when everything's sorting out and you realize you need a linebacker to play in this league, I feel like it's a little bit of an underrated position somehow. But, just know I'm going to be there, communicating, studying, doing what I got to do, getting ball carriers down, just like I've always been doing 10 years straight.
Put that green dot on no matter what. You could just jump in and run a playbook.
Man, I'm just having fun still, so it's great.
You can tell. It's awesome to see you, Eric. Stay healthy, stay well, and we can't wait for one of the insiders to tell us where Eric Kendricks signs after this appearance on Good Morning Football. And after he picks a guy up, scoop and score, he'll do a handstand in your end zone after putting 6 on the board.
Let's go.